A wonderful morning, everyone who joined today. So, from Managing Family, we would like to extend a warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. So, endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of the Manage Engine. Before I proceed, let me introduce myself. My name is Surya, and I'm a product specialist with Manage Engine. I take care of endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer, assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. So, in today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solutions, which have different portfolios under both management and security. So, when you see security, we have different products here, like Vulnerability Manager Plus, that focuses completely towards scanning and mitigating vulnerabilities. Then we have Patch Manager Plus, we have Browser Security Plus, we have Device Control to block unwanted devices. We have Patch Connect Plus, which is a plugin for SCCM. Then we have Application Control Plus to whitelist and blacklist applications. Then we look at management, and we have Desktop Central, which is a complete suite of all these products we discussed about, except Patch Connect Plus. And we also have standalone products like Mobile Device Manager for managing mobile devices. Then we have Remote Access Plus for taking remote control. And we also have products for Desktop Central, which is focused on MSPs. So if you're a service provider and if you are interested in Desktop Central, this product will help you with that. And we also have OS Deployer, which is to deploy images, like OS images to computers. So once again, welcome to Desktop Central training. And let's quickly look at the training schedule. We are the week 3, which is software deployment. This is one of the modules of endpoint management and security suite. We had patch management in the first week, and then followed by the endpoint security add-ons in the second week. Um, in case you have missed our last training schedule, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. And if you're interested in the upcoming training, please use the same link to register yourself. And we are also offering participation certificates for attendees, which includes the series 1, 2, 3, and 4. So which is going to be conducted over the period from November 3rd to December 15th. So for more details, please refer the below link. And let's start with application management, which is done through software deployment in the Desktop Central. So this is the agenda for today. So we'll take a quick look at the overview of what Desktop Central is all about and what software deployment is, how we are achieving it through Desktop Central. Then we will discuss about the distributed workforce, how a traditional and modern management varies. And we'll also catch up on upgrades of how we do business applications using templates. We'll also see on how to deploy a commercial application like Office 365 to a specific department. Then we'll look at self-service portal, which is going to help the users who don't have admin rights in their computers. Then we'll also look at some frequently asked questions. Okay, so this is the traditional example of a distributed workforce. This is, of course, an on-prem version of Desktop Central, where John is responsible to manage different endpoints in different locations, connected in different types. Say we have users connected from work from home. We have VPN connection. We have connections like MPLS or SD-WAN, and we have some locations where we even have a very limited bandwidth. So any type of these connections, you will be able to achieve it from this on-prem architecture. And the same thing can be achieved through the cloud, and that's what you're seeing here. We even have a SaaS offering, and can be achieved through that. That's what we are showing up here. And this is the way users connect nowadays to endpoints. So they can be connecting through a VPN, like you mentioned, a low bandwidth, or they don't have any bandwidth restriction when they are connected through the internet, but they will be communicating over a secure gateway or directly to the desktop central cloud. So by this way, we'll be able to manage a distributed workforce via desktop central. So what are all the challenges we are currently facing with this distributed workforce? So previously, all the computers were in the work from office scenario. So they had access to all the Windows applications. They had access, they need extra authentication. There was no need for that. The patches were all planned properly. So this is something which has been used by all IT admins so far. Then we came into the work from home scenario because of this COVID. So in this scenario, we saw a lot of challenges where there is a risk of unauthorized access to the uh, business applications. We have to configure new devices, like bring your own devices has to be configured as well. Then we had business collaboration tools to be accessible for all the employees, and we need an extra authentication because of this. Um, so these are all has to be managed from the customer's internet, which is not completely reliable as well. So the next challenge that we are facing now is back to office, where computers are coming back to office. So we need to check whether we have the proper security compliance, whether we need to quarantine these non-compliant endpoints, um, and defining a new type of patching or security policies for the hybrid workforce. So whether they come into office or go outside the office network, we should be able to handle the patching needs for these devices as well. So all these things are effectively handled with Desktop Central. So since today's topic is about software deployment, we'll see what challenges companies are facing nowadays, right? So they have to make these business applications available for users to install at their own convenience. So like I mentioned earlier, we cannot have the software deployed at a particular time. Maybe they are not ready at that time. Maybe they are in a work from home scenario. So we should be able to make it easier. And we should have a strict mode to restrict unwanted software installs by the users. So that is something we need to take care of. And we also have an issue where the IT or the help desk requests, the technician will receive a lot of help desk requests related to software deployment. They will need different applications at different times. So they'll receive a lot of requests. So we need to tackle all these things. So these are all the challenges we are facing in software deployment. We'll talk about them in the forthcoming slides, and we'll quickly see what Desktop Central is about. Okay, so Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the users to use them effectively for business. Okay, so when we say endpoints, or Desktop Central is a unified endpoint management solution. So what is a UEM? So this is what Forrester defines. So UEM is a product that provides a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. So thereby, we'll have to provide both traditional and modern management from a single console. That's the uh, overall information that we get from that. So that is what you're saying here as well. So what is a traditional management? What is a modern management? What's the difference between it? So in traditional management, we had patch management, where we just deploy patches to the computers. Whenever they need, you'll have that. So in modern management, we call it a controlled operating system updates. So you will be able to decide when the updates are to be installed, how it needs to be installed, what are all the pre and post deployment that needs to be happening. So all these things will be taken care of there. Then we have application management. We have management, the same way you can deploy applications from Microsoft Store or Apple Store. That is possible here. Then we have different ways of deploying configurations, or in other words, you can deploy settings or policies um, in a traditional management. But with the profile distribution, you'll be able to combine them all in a single profile, and you can have them distributed to the group of computers. Then we have inventory, where we'll be able to gather the hardware and software details, but we'll be able to completely do an asset management with the modern management as well. Then we have remote control, OS deployment, and nowadays we have OS reset and recovery. We have simple system manager functionalities like um, working on command prompt when they will, and we'll be having tools like wake on LAN and things like that. In modern management, we have geo tracking and geofencing policies that we can implement to find the location of the devices, even if the device is lost or stolen. So these are some of the features we offer both in traditional and modern management. So what Desktop Central's unified endpoint management is about? It's about giving you all these different functionalities. So from device provisioning, application management, you have configuration management, you have asset intelligence, you have remote device management, continuous vulnerability assessment can be done. You have an automated update management. We have data loss prevention, which can be done now. We have web protection, device compliance, analytics, and reporting as well. So all these things are available in a single suite, and we offer it in both Desktop Central on-prem, as well as most of these are available in the cloud version or the SaaS-based offering as well. So if you're an MSP, like you mentioned, we have an offering for that, and we have even come up with a solution called RMM Central, where you'll be able to have both the management and the monitoring capabilities for an endpoint as well. For network monitoring and management, we have combined them both, and we are providing RMM Central. So why choose Desktop Central? So these are all the awards and recognitions that Desktop Central has acquired recently. So it is recognized in 4 top IDC market space reports for UEM 2021, which is Worldwide Unified Endpoint Management Software 2021 Vendor Assessment. We have software for Apple devices, software for small and business-sized businesses. You can see Desktop Central is also recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2019, 2021, and 2018. So we have been recognized for Client Management Tool Division in Magic Quadrant for 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2021. In 2020, there was a small change in the criteria, and that's why we are not there, but we're pretty much there. You can see the presence there continuously as well. So what do we call an endpoint? So we've been discussing about unified endpoints so far. So what we call an endpoint is here. So it could be a laptop or a desktop or mobile devices, or tablets, point of sale devices, browsers, servers. So all of these are considered endpoints, and all these things can be managed from Desktop Central. Okay, and what operating systems we support? We support Windows, Mac, different flavors of Linux, and you can see them all here. And you'll be able to reach our technical support team in case if you would like to know if we are supporting any recent software as well. I mean, operating system as well. So Windows 11 is also included. So yeah, please reach out, or you can check out documentation for more information on this. So how does software deployment work? So in software deployment, the first thing that we will notice is to find a way to get a software distributed to the client machines and have it installed. So this is what's happening in the backend. So when we talk about software deployment, there has to be a repository from where the software has to be copied over. So Desktop Central offers both a network share capability and something called a HTTP repository, okay, from where the software can be copied over. If there is a clients, they are communicating directly to your Desktop Central server. Maybe you have computers managed only locally. In such cases, they'll be able to get this software either from the network share or from the HTTP repository. In case if you are managing computers in a branch office or remote office nowadays, we use something called the distribution server. What it does is it gets the required software from the Desktop Central server or from the network share over the internet, and then it uses the local intranet connection to share it. So the reason we have it is common for both patch and software, and it's going to help you minimize the bandwidth consumption. So when we talk about huge volumes of computers, they all reaching the internet to fetch these software or patch. Instead of that, we just use distribution server, which will just do it once over the internet and then uses the local intranet. So we'll be able to minimize bandwidth consumption by doing that. So what is the difference between a network share and a HTTP repository? So we discussed that we have two different repositories. Network share is a traditional method to deploy software. So previously, IT admins will have a common share. From there, the software will be fetched and they will install the software from there. So it helped when the computers were within the network. So there is no limit for the file size. There is no setup and maintenance. That's the advantage of it. But the disadvantage is that it will help only when the computers have access to the network share. But if you talk about computers that are in work from home scenarios, or roaming computers, or computers that don't have access to the network share, in such cases, the HTTP repository is going to help. There is a limitation where you can deploy up to a file size of 7 gigs, but that's pretty much enough for most scenarios. Okay, and you can deploy it to both local and wide area network agents, and there is no setup or maintenance required because it's done by default through Desktop Central. There will be a default repository created as soon as you implement the server. Okay. So the way the HTTP repository works is that when you upload a software from your local computer, it could be any computer where you're managing the server from. From there, it will be copied over to this repository in the Desktop Central server. From there, it's going to get copied over to the client machines that could be anywhere in the location. And from there, it's going to get installed. And even after the installation, it's going to delete that particular file automatically once upon after a successful implementation, I guess. So we have around 8,000 predefined application in our templates. So I'll quickly show console here. So we have software deployment, and we have templates. And you can search for any templates. We can see that there are around 8,000 templates. It is targeted for Windows, Mac, Debian, and Ubuntu operating systems. So you can search for any application and you can deploy it to your endpoints. Okay, and we'll talk about how Microsoft Teams is deployed through Desktop Central. So it is just an example to show you how we get a software from our templates and how we deploy it to the endpoints. So you have Teams. I can see that Microsoft Teams is there. I can create a package straight away from here. And once a package is created, I'll be able to see them under the packages list. So if I want to make any modifications to this, right? So it is creating a package for Microsoft Teams now. It might take a bit, but once the package is created, I'll be able to modify it, and I can change the settings as well. For example, if I want to make any changes to the pre-deployment settings, maybe I want to deploy Microsoft Teams, but before that, I need to check if Microsoft Teams is already installed in any computers or not. So in such cases, I'll be able to use this pre-deployment setting where I can check for a particular software and I can choose Teams here. I don't have Teams installed already. So for example, I'm choosing a software. So I can choose the version of it and I can choose the defined action as skip installation. So if I find the recent software already installed, there is no point I need to test it. Maybe I'm not sure which computers have that software installed. So in such cases, we can make use of this pre-deployment activities. You can be even a task, like you can deploy a setting or a script, you can execute it and then install the software. Maybe you want to copy a file and then install the software in different scenarios. So those kinds of things can be done directly with the pre-deployment. Or if you have any post-deployment activities, maybe after the installation, if you want to make any changes, like install a script after the installation has done or copy over a file, those kind of pre-deployment, post-deployment activities, even uninstallation commands can be added in the single package. So later, when you have a necessity to uninstall the same software, you can use the same package and choose an uninstallation operation and deploy it. So this is how you create a package from the template. So you just select a package, and once the package is created, you'll be able to choose a computer configuration, select the package name. So Microsoft Teams is there. I'm selecting it. And you also have this additional option here. So by default, we are going to use a system user privilege. So system user is a service account that is used within all Windows machines. This is kind of similar to an admin account. So it will have enough privileges to install any software on any computer with an elevated rights. So we can use this for pretty much any software deployment. But in certain scenarios, if a particular application demands admin rights, you have an option to even add your admin credential. It could be a domain admin credential or a local admin credential. We support them both. You can add it to your credential manager, and you can use that particular credential only for that software deployment. So that is also possible. You can schedule this to be deployed after a particular date and time. And we also have a deployment policy. If you have already gone through the patching, you would have known what a deployment policy is about. So I'll just give you a quick insight about what a deployment policy is. It is a way to choose when a particular software is supposed to be installed during a particular window. You can choose that. And you also have option to make pre-deployment activities before installing the software. If you want to do a restart on the machines, or deploy a script, or even notify the users. Maybe in scenarios where you deploy some application which requires the users to close that application, you can notify the users about it. And then you can also have post-deployment activities, like after the application gets installed, if you want to do a restart or shutdown, those things can be handled right away from this view. Okay. So you can create any policy that suits your requirement, and you can map it with your task, and then you can target it to any computers. So this particular agenda is about deploying teams to a particular um, department. So I can create groups for any scenarios here in Desktop Central. Okay, so we have something called custom groups. So it could be a custom group for departments, like I mentioned, or it could be a custom group for different locations or different teams. So whatever you prefer, you can create a group for anything. You can create a static or a dynamic group, and you can target this application to a particular group. So that is the reason we talked about it. So you can target your whole domain, and then you can filter it down to a custom group and choose the custom group that you created for this particular department. And you also notice that we have this option to run at every startup, and we also have this option to do a retry as well. So this will be helpful in scenarios where you deploy a software to around 100 computers, example. And if 20 were off at that time, instead of telling you that it's failed in these 20 computers, we'll wait for the machines to come back on. So during the startup, that'll be a restart, a retry, sorry. So, and in case if the machine was off the network, and maybe that's the reason they didn't catch that particular software deployment. So every 90 minutes, the agents will communicate with the server as per a refresh policy. And during that time, it will understand that a software has been tried and failed. So it just fetches it again and it gets it installed. So one way or other, we can ensure that the software gets installed. That's how the retry option helps you. And then you can choose either deploy or deploy immediately as per your need. So deploy immediately, as the name suggests, is going to get it deployed immediately on the computers. If you choose deploy, it will wait for the machines to communicate with the desktop central server, and during that, it will get it installed on the machines. So that's how we deploy any software from the templates to a particular department or to a group of computers. Maybe if you have a need to deploy a huge commercial application, that's the second agenda for here. So deploying a commercial application to a specific group of computers, right? So we'll see how it's done. So when it comes to Office 365 or pretty much any commercial application, we not just install the software, we will need a configuration file along with it. So the configuration file is something that will define how the installation is going to happen. Okay, so for example, here, I'll go to software deployment. And since it's a commercial application, we don't have it supported in the templates. So there are some criteria for us to support in templates, but commercial application is not there. So you can add any commercial application. You can add your own packages here. Okay, so here it could be an exe file. Sorry, let me just open my package. I have already created a package for it because it's a huge application. All right, so I'll just quickly show you that. Let's create one. Okay. So for example, if I want to create a package for Office 365, we have a clear documentation on deploying Office 365 application from Desktop Central. So one for 2016 and 2019, as you can see. So what we basically do is first you download the required package, you extract the contents of the exe file, and then you customize the installation. So these things are pretty straightforward, and you have the instructions on achieve it, on how we achieve it. So there are two ways in doing this. Either you extract the whole content of the Office 365 package or Office 2019 package, and then zip it and use the installation command. So when you zip it and send it, it's going to unzip the file in the client's machine, and it's going to install the software there. Or you can just upload the click to run file, which is going to get executed and automatically get it installed based on the configuration file. So this XML file that you create will have the information about which package, I mean, what contents are to be in the package. Maybe you don't need Visio, or maybe you don't need Access, Microsoft Access in this package. So you can disregard those unwanted software from the particular suite. So that's what the XML file is going to help. It'll help you with accepting the end user license agreement automatically. It's going to help you with license or keys that can be included along with it. It will help you with choosing the language settings. So everything can be customized with the XML file. And you will have an option to do this both from Microsoft's toolkit, which will allow you to create an own XML file, or you can get an XML file by default and just modify it yourself. Both will work. Okay, so in an example, if you have the setup file added, it could be like I mentioned. Yeah, it could be just the zip file of the whole package, or it's just the setup file of the click to run file. You just choose the command that is to be used. So here I'm just locating the file, so setup.exe, and I'm going to configure it with the help of an XML file, which is in this location. So I can put both these in a single location and just call them like this, where I just want to configure, and the config.xml file is going to help me with this. Okay, if I'm doing it from a network share, I'll have to provide the share path here along with the file name and the config files share path as well. That's the only difference between deploying through a network share and deploying it from the local computer. So once you have this, like I mentioned, if you want pre-deployment, post-deployment activities, you can add it, and then you can add your package here and deploy it to any machines. So this is going to be applicable for any huge commercial application like Adobe Suite as well. Maybe they don't have an XML file. They might use some other answer files like an INI file or any batch files that they may need to execute along with it. So any kind of scenario, you just upload all the necessary files here and deploy it. I mean, add a package and then deploy it to any machines. So that's how we create a package or a commercial package like Office 365. Then we have a requirement where we have to restrict non-business applications. So we have an add-on called application control, right? So in application control, we'll be able to create blacklisting or whitelisting policies and restrict unwanted application. I'll just quickly show you how this looks. Um, so in application control, we allow you to create, let me just right? Sorry for that. So we have an option to create both whitelisting and blacklisting policies. We can choose by vendors, like maybe you want to block the applications from a particular vendor, or maybe you want to block applications by just choosing the location of the device, I mean, application installed. Maybe you just want to block it with the file name or a hash function. So anyways, you will be able to block it, or you can create a whitelisting policy where you can just choose the applications that are to be allowed in your organization, right? And except for that application, none of the new applications are possible for the users to use. So that is also a type of restricting the applications, like unwanted applications, to be used by the users. And in case if there are some requirements where you want to temporarily allow access, those things you can do it from here. You'll be able to even allow users to um, run a few applications with admin rights and things like that. So this is an add-on. It's a security add-on that comes with Desktop Central that can help you restrict unwanted applications through Desktop Central. So we also have a use case here where John is receiving a lot of help desk requests and to install various business applications. How can this be minimized, right? So this is something we initially saw in the agenda. So here, for example, he is maybe getting a request to install some commonly used applications, right? So we have something called a self-service portal in Desktop Central. So in self-service portal, you'll be able to choose what applications are commonly requested by the users, and I can select all these particular software and publish it to a group of computers. So this is how I choose, and I have published it. And once I have it published, all the computers in that group, they'll be able to see the software they want, and they can install it directly from here. And in case if the software is already installed, we even allow something called auto upgrading the templates. So this is something from our template. When we upgrade our template, you will see an option called update. Instead of install, you'll see that option. You can just click on update and update the software from here. The request option is only available when you um, integrate Desktop Central with our ticketing tool called Service Desk Plus, where the users can request for a particular software, which will automatically create a ticket in the Service Desk Plus tool, and the technician can accept that. So an installation request is sent, the approval request will be sent to the technician. The technician will be approving it, and it's going to get installed through the self-service portal. So that's how we minimize the frequent requests that a system admin gets to install different software. So with this self-service portal, the other advantage is that though the user don't have admin rights, if you publish this software on a computer configuration, they will have the ability to install the software with elevated permissions because it's going to use the system user privilege, like I mentioned earlier. So that's what the agent has on the machines. So that is what we are going to make use of to install the software. So even without admin rights, the frequently installed software can be managed easily from here. Then we have some common error messages that we get when we deploy a software. Let's say you're deploying a software and you get this error as path specified as not found, or you might get access denied. So this is mostly the case when we use network share, where the file that you have copied to the network share might not be available for all the computers to which you're deploying it. Maybe they don't have privileges to access the network share. So that's why you're getting this particular error. And in case if you get this error, no silent switch or invalid silent switches, it's because, like I mentioned earlier, any software that we deploy, it's going to get deployed silently to the user's machines or the computers without any prompts or without any user intervention. It's going to get deployed completely silent. So any software that we deploy to Desktop Central will need a silent switch along with it. Um, it could be /yes, or it could be anything that the vendor describes. So the silent switch will uh, comprise of all the actions that you do. For example, when you initially start a software installation, you will be asked to accept the user agreement. It will ask you to accept what drive you want the software to be installed. It will ask you to choose the language and other settings. So all these things will be compressed with the help of a silent switch. And that's why the users will not see any pop-ups when you deploy a software through Desktop Central. So that's how the silent switch is going to help you with this. So if this silent switch is missed, we will be notifying you with the error message that no silent switch is found in this particular package. So we also have MDM. So that is what the next question is about, where the technician would like to push Zoho meeting app to an enterprise mobile phones. So we'll be having an app repository. So with MDM, you should be able to manage different types of mobile operating systems like iOS devices, Android devices, even Windows, Mac OS, Chromebooks, Apple TVOS devices, etc. So this can be managed in different ways. So you enroll the devices, and once you have them enrolled, you'll be able to manage or deploy apps to these devices as well. So we have an app repository available. And from the app repository, you should be able to, you can add your own app. You can add your enterprise apps from here as well. And you can choose to which devices or group of devices you're going to apply this. So that is also something that we can do through the Desktop Central's MDM. So far we discussed about software deployment. So I'm just going to explain how Desktop Central works altogether. So what you're looking at is the whole architecture of Desktop Central. You can see the Desktop Central server installed in maybe in your head office where you have enough resources. Then you have the Desktop Central agents installed in the endpoints. So this is going to work as a client server model. Once the agents are installed, they'll be able to communicate with the server. So in a simple example that you see here, the agents are directly communicating with the Desktop Central server because they are within the same network. And you have computers that are in branch offices. So you have a computer that is deployed in a branch office, like I mentioned, to decrease the bandwidth consumption in because we have multiple endpoints here, and they will all be using the internet bandwidth to get the software and patch from the server. We use something called a distribution server. And in case if you just have few computers, maybe less than 10 computers in an office, in such cases, maybe you're not worried about the bandwidth consumption. So you can have them all directly communicate over the desktop central server. So what facilitates this internet communication is what you're seeing here as secure gateway server. So this is a small component that you install in a Windows machine and you place it in your DMZ. And the secure gateway server is going to help you with managing the computers that are outside your network. Because it is in the DMZ, it can be securely hosted in the internet. So the public FQDN or the URL of the secure gateway will be available for all the agents. So they can easily reach the secure gateway, and the secure gateway will in turn act as a forwarding server. So it's going to forward all the requests to the desktop central server. And all these operations are going to happen in a secured way. Okay, so that's how a desktop central works. The other advantages is that if you have an on-prem AD, you can integrate with it. You can get your AD groups. Like I mentioned, when you target a software or a patch, you can easily deploy the software to an AD group or to a complete OU. And those computer information, we will be fetching it from your Active Directory. So that's how Desktop Central works, and that's the architecture of it. So all these things that we are talking about here under Desktop Central Server and the Secure Gateway Server are taken care when we talk about the SaaS way of Desktop Central. So in Desktop Central Cloud, you have all those things, including the security certificate, secure gateway, the Desktop Central Server, the maintenance part of it, the upgrade part of it. Everything is taken care by Desktop Central. So you just simply sign in. You have the link at the bottom, which is desktopcentral.manageengine.com. You just sign up, sign in, install the agents, and start managing them the way you want. So that is how we are managing the endpoints in Desktop Central Cloud. So we'll quickly look into some frequently asked questions in Desktop Central on how we deploy a software. So one of the frequently asked questions is, can we reinstall an essential application automatically if it gets uninstalled? Yes, we can do that. So what we do here is, under software deployment, when you create a package, there are two steps needed for this. First step is when you create a package, you have a pre-deployment activity here where you'll be able to choose check software, and you can choose the particular software here. Let's say 7-zip. Okay, so you can choose the version of it. Maybe it's a new version, and this can be modified anytime when a new version is available as well. So when you save and continue this, what happens is when you deploy a software like 7-zip software, the pre-deployment check is going to happen. It's going to see if 7-zip is already installed in the machine or not. If it is not installed, it's going to get this installed. Okay, so if the user uninstalls it, it needs to find a way to detect this. So we use an option here. So we saw this, apply this configuration at every startup. So if you do this and choose the software, this software configuration will be done every time the computer starts up. So we have a pre-deployment check. So the pre-deployment check is going to see if the software is already installed in the machines. If it is installed, it is going to skip the step. If it is not installed, maybe the user uninstalled the software, like I mentioned earlier. In that case, this configuration is going to apply when the machine gets starts, or you can maybe run it every 90 minutes, which is the refresh policy. So every 90 minutes, it will check if the software is there. If it is not there, it's going to install the software. So that's how we can meet this particular requirement. So second question is, I have a third-party application that does not support silent install. How can I install it? So like I mentioned, silent install is going to help you with any software deployment that you do through Desktop Central. And it is the vendor's responsibility to provide a silent switch for their particular software. And you will find it for any enterprise targeted application where you will see a silent switch provided in the user guide of that particular application. In case if you don't find it, we have an option here. When you select that particular software, which is added without the silent switches, you will have the option to enable user interaction. So when you deploy the software, the users will be prompted. They can click on next, accept the policies, the user agreement. They can choose the drive and they can install it. So that is also an option available. So the third question is, I tried to deploy a business app to a computer, but it failed. Is there a way to troubleshoot it myself? Yes, you have. So if it is an MSI file, we automatically place a log under the Desktop Central Agent logs folder. You will see, for example, here it's a Skype installation from an MSI file. You'll be able to open it and see where exactly it failed. In case if it is an exe file or any installation, we'll be able to see all the configurations that are deployed to the machines. You'll be able to see the execution status, whether it's executed successfully or not, whether it's failed. If it is failed, we'll be able to show them remarks as well, why it is failed. Like I mentioned, it could be failed due to the lack of silent switch. Maybe it doesn't have enough privileges to access the file that you have in the network share. So we'll be able to show them all under the remarks. If possible, we'll even add a KB article, which will help you troubleshoot it. In case, worst case, if you couldn't find it, you can even reach out to our support team and we'll be able to look into it and we can help you to get that sorted out as well. So the fourth question is, when I create a package using the templates, what happens if a new version of the application is released? So like I mentioned, this can be done with the self-service portal. When a new version of the application is released, for the self-service portal, you'll be able to automatically provide an update. So they can just click on update and they can update it themselves. If you have that package created and deployed to the machine, you'll have to just modify it with the new package and you can deploy it again. So that's another way to deploy when a new version of the application is released. So if you're using a secure gateway server in our setup, do the external clients still need to connect to the HTTP portal for software, or they can go directly on the network share via the secure gateway server? So they will have to go through they will have to use this HTTP portal, because if the computers are outside the network, they usually don't have access to the network share. So in such cases, they will have to you will have to use the HTTP to get the HTTP repository where you can have the software deployed either the computers within the network or outside the network. Using the secure gateway, we'll be able to achieve it. So the sixth question is, I want my software packages to be replicated to the remote office. How do I achieve it? So yeah, in the any offices, so if you have a branch office, we'll be able to create a remote office for a branch office, which is kind of like a group, as well as in case if you want to provide any replication policies, you'll be able to apply that to that remote office. And when you deploy any software, you will have the option to choose remote office as a as a target. So all your branch offices can be separated as remote office, and you can see roaming users. Even for work from home computers, you can create a remote office in that name and have them all communicate directly to the secure gateway. And we even call that a remote office. So you can easily target a remote office and deploy a software to all the computers in a particular office as well. So that is possible. So when multiple software are deployed in sequence, if the first package fails, does it attempt to continue? How is notification sent back? So the usual scenario is when the package fails, the first package fails, it's not going to attempt the second package. It's going to fail there as well. So you'll have an option to enable this. Even if the first package gets failed, you'll be able to have it deployed the rest of the packages. the notification will be sent to you as it's failed, because even if one package gets failed, it will need your attention. So it will tell you that it is failed. So you can just look into it and see which particular package is failed. If you have any trouble there, you can reach out to our support and we'll be looking into the logs and tell you why it failed and things like that. And this is when you have Service Desk Plus integration. So we have 11 technician licenses in Service Desk Plus, but we have only one technician license in Desktop Central. Is it possible to set the self-service portal with only one technician license? Of course, we can do that. So all we need is one common technician who is there in both Desktop Central and Service Desk Plus. And if that is achievable, yes, of course, you can integrate it and create self-service portal and use the request option for the users to automatically create tickets. So that is possible. So that's we have come to the end of the session. So if you have any questions, feel free to post your questions in the live question and answer session, and our panelists will be able to answer it live.
Thank you very much for the session, Surya.
Thanks, Santosh.
Yeah, so we'll be answering the questions live at the moment right now. So
Sure.
it was a very wonderful session. So we'll wait for a couple of questions and probably pick the ones and then try to answer.
Sure, Santosh.
So the common questions is, will we get the presentation or the recording? You'll get the recording of the session post after we complete the session. Probably in the next couple of days you should be getting the recording, right, of the session. You will get it. Okay. I'm just going through the questions to see if we can any questions that's relevant to today's topic that we can answer. So integration, one of the questions is integrating Desktop Central Cloud with Asset Management, Asset Explorer. That's another product of ours. So currently Desktop Central on-prem has integration with Asset Explorer. The cloud version of Desktop Central does not have integration with Asset Explorer. However, please keep in mind, whatever the Asset Explorer can do, Desktop Central agent by itself will be able to do, whether it's a cloud or on-prem, both the ways. See a couple of questions that are related to agent installation. So that is not part of today's webinar. However, the last webinar that we have in this series, in this training, we will be talking more about agent installation, onboarding of the endpoints, integrations, and things like that. So if you can register for the upcoming webinar and look at that, we'll talk more in detail about agent installation. But however, personally, we have answered those questions to those attendees about how to get the agent installation, GPO installation, and things like that. So what to do if the error message is saying in use when I deploy the software? So in things like that, one of the things that you could try to do is probably deploy it during the startup. Right? You can put it as deploy it during the startup. In that way, it will wait for the startup. In the startup, the application will not be, running. So before even the application, any application that starts, we'll try to install the applications, the dependency application. So if it says in use, which means either a dependency application or the same application is already running, and that's why it's not able to complete the installation process. For this, what you can do is, first thing is probably when you deploy it at the deployment policy, you can say deploy it during a startup. So when the machine reboots, it automatically installs. Right? That's one way of going about it. Is there a plan to support setup like MSIX, PSADT, APPX? Yes, these are already, it is already, so APPX is already supported in software deployment. Basically, any extensions, any applications that can execute in the operating system, we technically can execute it there. MSIX alone is not supported yet, but we'll take that as feature request. Is there any demo environment that I can work with? Yes, you can just go to demo.desktopcentral.com and you should be able to get a feel of the product all by yourself. Demo.desktopcentral.com. Surya, if you're there,
Yep.
Can you show them the, checking for specific software, uninstalling it, and then deploy the other software while you create a package, right? You put the pre-deployment conditions. Package. So can you show that to them? So one of the questions is about how do I go about uninstalling the previous version and installing the next version? So just through that, yes.
Sure. So yeah, in case if you are installing an application version 1.0, right? So you'll be you're going to install application version 2.0, but you want to see if 1.0 is already installed. If it is installed, you may want to uninstall it and then install the version 2. So you were practically creating a package for version 2. Maybe this is the one you want to install, and in the pre-deployment activities, you have an option where you can choose uninstall software. So here you can choose which software you want to check and uninstall. So practically you can have multiple activities. The first, you may just want to check if the software is already there. If the software is there, or the version 1 is there, it will go with the second configuration, which is the uninstall software, where you will choose the software, the version, and you will provide the uninstall string for that. And the uninstall string will be automatically fetched for the installed software that we have found from the inventory scan on your computers. So we can use that and uninstall. When you create a package like this, it's going to uninstall the older version as it detects, and then it's going to install the version 2.0.
Great. Thank you very much, Surya. I think that's pretty much it. We have also come to the end of the session time. So thank you very much, Surya, for your wonderful session. It was really useful for our attendees. Folks, thank you very much for joining. You can go back to the presentation, Surya. So please, when you exit the webinar on a scale of 5, please do rate us, where 5 being the best. And the next training is on asset management. Please note it's on December 1st, not next week. So I know you guys would be busy packing up for the holidays or probably for the season that's coming up. So the asset management will be on December 1. Please do join there. And thank you very much for joining. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful holidays and wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you, Surya.
Thanks.